Hey guys, welcome back. This week we'll discuss more than 25 CVEs threatening IoT and OT devices, Apple patching a zero-day vulnerability that can bypass anti-malware defenses, new US agencies potentially hacked, and our CVE of the week, a Preauth RCE in TG8 Firewall. First, let's discuss the multiple vulnerabilities in IoT and OT devices. Last week, Microsoft Section 52 uncovered a series of critical memory allocation vulnerabilities in IoT and OT devices. These 25 CVEs named BadAlloc could potentially affect a wide range of industries like consumer, medical, or industrial IoT devices, OT devices, and industrial control systems. These vulnerabilities are found in memory allocation functions, which serve to allocate blocks of memory dynamically in these programs. These issues allow attackers to execute a remote code execution that could be used to bypass security controls in order to execute malicious code or cause a system crash. Since IoT and OT devices are used by many organizations, these vulnerabilities could cause a lot of damage. Microsoft reported these vulnerabilities to the relevant vendors as well as the DHS and CISA due to their concerns of nation-state hackers exploiting them. Since IoT devices are hard to patch, Microsoft advised users to reduce the attack surface by minimizing or eliminating exposure of vulnerable devices to the internet. In other news, Apple patched a zero-day vulnerability that could bypass anti-malware defenses. This vulnerability exists in macOS and allows attackers to easily craft payloads that go unchecked by the operating system, thus bypassing its defenses. It was discovered by security researcher Cedric Owens, who reported it to Apple for further analysis. After analyzing the app, Apple researchers were surprised to see that it had already been exploited since January by a malware already known to Apple. This malware was discovered in August of last year and patches against it were released, but it has now been repackaged to exploit this new vulnerability. Apple had released a new patch and advised its users to get the latest version as soon as possible. As reported a couple of weeks ago, following the latest SolarWinds and Exchange hacks that affected many US agencies, more agencies seem to be affected in a similar new attack. This time, the vulnerabilities exist in Pulse Connect Secure, a VPN that employees use to remotely connect to large networks. Last week, CISA announced that 5 US agencies using Pulse Connect Secure might have been hacked due to potential vulnerabilities. One of the vulnerabilities was being actively exploited in the wild before it was made known to the maker of Pulse Secure, Ivanti. This vulnerability combines an authentication bypass with a remote code execution attack to run malicious code on PulseSecure hardware and gain control of part of the network where it's installed. After becoming aware of this vulnerability, Ivanti released an integrity tool which streamlines the process of checking whether devices were compromised. In response, CISA had mandated that all federal agencies run this tool and check whether they've been compromised. Patches correcting this vulnerability have also been released by PulseSecure. Now, for our CVE of the week, a Preauth RCE in TG8 Firewall. 2 vulnerabilities were found in TG8 Firewall. One allows attackers to run commands as root without requiring authentication. The other allows attackers to expose existing users' passwords without being authenticated with the remote device. Both vulnerabilities were discovered by an independent researcher and reported to SSD through the SSD Disclosure program. SSD tried to report this vulnerability to the vendor, but even though it could be very harmful, the vendor did not provide the proper response. We advise users of TG8 to immediately block internet-facing port 80/443 used for administering the device since it could be easily compromised. That's it for now. More details about what we just mentioned can be found in the description below. Don't forget to follow us on our other channels to keep up with the latest news and advisories.